When my roommate said he wanted to film something for his YouTube channel, I assumed he meant another one of his dumb skits where he wore a wig and pretended to be a Karen at Starbucks. What I didn't expect was for him to drag me into it, mid-filming, and kiss me in front of a camera and an entire food court. Let me back up. My name's Liam, 22, final year in college. I'm the kind of guy who minds his business, drinks his coffee black, and doesn't post my life online. I don't even like having my picture taken, let alone being filmed. So being roommates with Chase, a loud, confident, camera-obsessed media major with 300K YouTube subscribers, was a lesson in patience from the very first week. But we got along, surprisingly well, actually. Chase wasn't just hot in that irritating way where you want to punch someone for having a perfect jawline. He was also genuinely funny, kind of a dumbass, and weirdly thoughtful. Like, he'd buy me my favorite cereal without me asking, or pause his editing sessions just to help me carry in groceries. Stuff like that. He didn't know I was into him, obviously. I was good at keeping that part buried deep under sarcasm and locked bedroom doors. So when he told me one Friday afternoon, "Dude, come with me to the mall, I need a cameraman," I didn't think twice. I had nothing better to do. And honestly, I liked hanging around him, even if it meant carrying his tripod and dodging stares from strangers while he pretended to be a lost French tourist. The plan was simple. Prank-style interviews, silly questions, maybe a pie to the face. The usual, nothing remotely serious. But Chase had other ideas. Around hour 2 of filming, we were near the food court, and he was clearly getting bored. He kept glancing at me between takes, that crooked grin tugging at his mouth. "You trust me?" he asked out of nowhere. "Not even a little," I replied, because I didn't. He laughed, and that should have been my first red flag. "All right," he said, turning the camera toward himself. "We're switching it up now. I'm gonna do a little challenge I've seen trending. Random dares, full send, no backing out." I sighed. "Please don't get us banned from another Panera." No promises. He set the camera on a nearby ledge, making sure it was angled just right. Then he looked at me with a twinkle of mischief I didn't like one bit. "I'm gonna go up to a stranger and ask them to kiss me," he said. My stomach dropped. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," he said. "It's for content." I rolled my eyes. "You're insane." "Hold this," he said, handing me his phone, which was already recording. He walked up to a group of girls, did his little bit. They giggled. One of them blushed. Another asked for his Instagram. Standard Chase behavior. Then he turned and walked back toward me. A little too fast, like he was excited. "That's nothing," he said out of breath. "You know what would really blow this video up?" "Please don't." Before I could finish, he turned back to the camera and shouted, "Plot twist, I'm actually into my roommate." And then he kissed me. Right there, in the middle of the food court, with half of campus probably watching. His hand came up to the back of my neck, and he kissed me. I froze. My brain shut down. My heart forgot how to beat. His lips were warm, firm, not rushed like he was doing it for laughs. And just when I started to kiss him back, just the tiniest bit, he pulled away, grinning like he'd just scored a touchdown. "Boom," he said, turning to the camera. "God, I am." I stared at him, stunned, blinking like someone had just dumped a bucket of water over my head. Because I didn't know if he'd just pulled the prank of the century or confessed something. And neither, apparently, did he. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. His smile faded a little, like he wasn't sure if he'd gone too far. "You good?" he asked, softer now. I swallowed. My throat was dry. My face was probably 12 shades of red, but I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I just didn't know I was part of the prank." He hesitated. I didn't either. I should have said something. Anything. Made a joke, shoved him, called him an idiot. But my brain was still buffering like a bad Wi-Fi signal, and Chase, he was looking at me like he was waiting for me to laugh. Or yell. or kiss him back. Maybe all three. I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I handed him back his phone and said, "You're gonna have to edit out my panic face." He laughed. Too loudly. Too fast. But it sounded a little off. "Dude, that was solid content. You looked like you were about to explode." "I was," I muttered, brushing past him. From embarrassment. Truth was, my heart hadn't slowed down once since his lips touched mine. We didn't talk much on the walk back to the car. He was quieter than usual, humming some stupid beat under his breath and pretending to scroll through his phone. I was busy trying not to overthink the fact that I could still feel the pressure of his hand on the back of my neck. When we got home, he dropped his gear on the couch and finally looked at me. "You mad?" he asked, eyes searching mine. "No," I said, maybe a little too quickly. He nodded. "Cool, just making sure. Wasn't trying to mess with you or anything." I shrugged. "You kissed me for views kinda feels like messing with me." Chase winced. "Yeah, it wasn't supposed to come off like that." I raised an eyebrow. "Then, how was it supposed to come off?" He opened his mouth, then shut it, looked down at the floor, scratched the back of his head like he was trying to rub the answer out of his scalp. "I don't know," he said finally. I wanted to do something that felt real and surprising. I thought it'd be funny." "Was it?" I asked. "I mean, yeah, but also..." He trailed off. "Not exactly." We stood there for a moment, the air between us heavy and confusing. I wasn't sure what he was trying to say, and I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Then he did something unexpected. He walked over to me, slowly, and sat down on the edge of the coffee table in front of where I was standing, close enough that his knees brushed mine. "I watch how you look at me sometimes," he said, his voice low. "Not in a bad way, just different." My stomach clenched. "What are you talking about?" "I'm not trying to call you out," he said quickly. "I'm saying I see it, and maybe I've been looking back." I froze. Chase looked up at me, eyes a little unsure now. "That kiss, it was for the video, but not just for the video." "You're straight," I said, because it was the only sentence I could get out. He shrugged. "I thought I was. Maybe I'm not. Or maybe I just like you." There it was. My heart punched the inside of my ribs like it was trying to break out. He looked so different now. Less smug, more serious, like he was telling me something that scared the shit out of him. "You like me?" I repeated. "Yeah," he said. "Is that weird?" "No," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "It's just unexpected." "Tell me about it," he muttered, rubbing his hands together nervously. We sat there for a long minute, both of us too scared to be the first to move. Finally, I said, "So what happens now? You gonna post that video?" Chase shook his head. "Not unless you want me to." I stared at him. "What if I don't care about the video?" His eyebrows lifted just slightly. "Then what do you care about?" "You," I said. "Unfortunately." He grinned, the same cocky, chaotic smile I'd seen 100 times before. But this time, it looked softer, nervous, hopeful. "Okay," he said. "Good, because I've been thinking about doing that again." "Filming prank videos?" I smirked. "No," he said. "This." And then, without the camera, without a dare, without an audience, he kissed me again. This time, I kissed him back. Kissing him the second time was worse than the first, because it felt real. No laughs, no camera, no excuse to hide behind. Just his hand on my face and his mouth on mine, and the realization that I was kissing my roommate, my possibly straight roommate, who kissed me first. Chase's lips were soft but uncertain, like he wasn't totally sure I'd kiss him back. And I think that was the scariest part. Not knowing if this was just curiosity or something more, but the moment I leaned in and he let out that tiny breath of relief against my cheek, that sealed it. When we pulled apart, it was quiet for a few seconds. Our foreheads bumped together, neither of us looking up. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, what?" I asked. I liked that more than I probably should have. I huffed a laugh, my hands resting awkwardly in my lap. "You sure it's not just because I'm a really good kisser?" He pulled back, just enough to give me a mock glare. I've kissed people before, Liam. I think I'd know. You kissed me as a prank, Chase. And then I kissed you again, he said, his tone flat but gentle. Because I wanted to. I swallowed. So what does this mean? He stood up abruptly, running a hand through his hair like he needed to physically shake the tension out of his body. I don't know. I didn't plan this, okay? I didn't wake up this morning thinking I'd out myself in a shopping mall. I looked up at him. So you're, what, not straight? He paused. I don't know. Maybe I'm not anything. Maybe I just like you and I don't want to overthink it. That sentence sent a little thrill through my spine. It was messy and vague, but it was honest. And it sounded exactly like him. You really shouldn't have done that in public, I said, more to fill the silence than to scold him. He looked sheepish. Yeah, I figured that out right after it happened. I mean, if you were trying to tell me you liked me, there were other ways. Oh, like writing you a letter? He grinned. Or should I have left a post-it note on your cereal box? I rolled my eyes. Literally anything, besides filming it for your followers. He stepped toward me again, quieter this time. You don't get it. I've been thinking about it for weeks. I didn't know how to bring it up. And yeah, maybe it was a dumb way to do it, but I panicked. You panicked and kissed me? Yeah, he said. And I'm not sorry. I looked at him, trying to find a crack in his expression, some sign that he was messing with me, or confused, or just looking for something new to go viral. But there was nothing. Just him, staring back at me with that ridiculous mixture of confidence and vulnerability he always carried when he was out of his depth. So what now? I asked. He shrugged. We keep kissing? You tell me to back off? We pretend it didn't happen and go back to eating leftover pizza on the couch? I hesitated, then stood up and stepped into his space. You're not scared? I'm terrified, he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. But I'm more scared of pretending I don't want this. That hit harder than I expected. I reached out and took his hand, just to see how it felt. His fingers curled around mine like he'd been waiting for it. And honestly, maybe he had. Okay, I said, let's see what happens. And for once, Chase didn't have a comeback. Just that quiet, serious look on his face that I'd only seen a handful of times before. Like the moment mattered, and he knew it. We didn't kiss again that night. We just sat on the couch, side by side, still holding hands like two idiots who had no clue what the hell they were doing. But for once, I didn't feel like the sidekick in one of his stupid videos. I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The next morning was the first time I felt genuinely awkward around Chase. Not because of what we did, but because of what we didn't do. We hadn't talked about the kiss after it happened. No deep heart-to-heart, no dramatic declarations. We'd held hands for a while, then put on a movie we didn't watch, then said goodnight like roommates who definitely didn't kiss twice, and maybe weren't halfway into a full-blown identity crisis. When I came out of my room, Chase was already in the kitchen, shirtless as usual, pouring cereal like nothing had happened. Morning, he said, like he wasn't about to blow my entire sense of reality again. Hey, I replied, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes. There was a long pause. Then he tilted his head, grinning. You look like you saw a ghost. I feel like I kissed one, I muttered, grabbing a mug from the shelf. Twice, he laughed. It helped. I was thinking, he said between mouthfuls of cereal, about last night. Oh God. Yeah, I said carefully. He nodded. I liked it. I blinked. The cereal? He snorted. No, dumbass. You. Us. The kissing part. I leaned against the counter, gripping my mug like a life raft. Okay, he echoed. That's all you've got? I'm processing, Chase. He looked me over for a second, then asked quietly, Want me to stop bringing it up? I shook my head. No, I've never done this before. What? Kiss someone? Been into a guy who's maybe into me back, I said. And yeah, kissed them. While being roommates. While being filmed. He smirked. Fair. We sat in silence for a few seconds before he nudged the cereal box toward me. I have an idea, I groaned. That sentence always ends in disaster. This time it's different, he said. What if we do something normal? Like, hang out, just us. No cameras, no pranks, not even his roommates. I raised an eyebrow. Like a date? He shrugged. Sure, yeah, a date. The fact that Chase, the guy who once prank called his own grandma pretending to be a debt collector, was now standing barefoot in our kitchen asking me out on a date was almost enough to short-circuit my brain. But I nodded. Okay, when? Tonight? Sure. Cool, he said, clearly trying to play it off like he wasn't ridiculously nervous. I'll plan something. That night, I came out of my room and nearly laughed when I saw him. He'd actually dressed up. A button-up shirt, not even wrinkled, hair slightly styled. He even put on cologne. This is weird, I said, trying not to smile. Yeah, I hate it, he replied. Let's go. He took me to this tiny Thai place near campus. We'd ordered takeout from there a dozen times, but we'd never eaten in. Somehow, sitting across from him at an actual table, without the safety of a couch or camera lens between us, felt real in a way I wasn't prepared for. Halfway through the meal, he looked at me and said, "So what happens if this doesn't work?" I blinked. You mean us? He nodded. We go back to being friends, I said. Or we try to. I won't burn your stuff, if that's what you're asking. He smiled, then poked at his noodles. I guess I'm just worried I'll mess it up. You might, I said honestly. So might I. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt something shift. Okay, he said, then let's try. The rest of the date was surprisingly easy. Not perfect, not smooth. We both fumbled a few sentences and nearly spilled our drinks twice. But it felt good, like something we'd accidentally been building toward for a long time without realizing it. When we got back to the apartment, Chase lingered by the front door like he wasn't sure what to do with his hands. It was weird seeing him that way. Usually he was all confidence and motion, always cracking a joke or tossing a one-liner before I could catch up. But now he looked nervous. So, he said, scratching the back of his neck, should we, debrief? Debrief? I smirked, stepping closer. You make it sound like a CIA mission. He gave a sheepish laugh. It kind of felt like one. I took the smallest step forward. Well, Agent Chase, I'd say the operation was a success. He met my gaze, a little breath catching in his throat. Yeah? Yeah. We stood there for a second, close enough to feel the heat between us again. Then he leaned in, slower this time, not like before when it had been for shock value or the thrill of a prank. This was different. Thoughtful. Gentle. His hand brushed my jaw, his thumb barely grazing my cheek. And then he kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't for show. It wasn't just a prank, bro. It was real. When we broke apart, he didn't say anything right away. Just looked at me with this expression that was soft and unguarded, like I was the only thing in his world right then. I've wanted to do that all week, he finally said. I laughed. You literally did do that all week. Yeah, but this time, you kissed me back on purpose. We moved to the couch, sitting closer than we normally did. Our knees touched. My shoulder leaned into his. It felt easy in a way I hadn't expected. So, I said after a few minutes, "Are we telling people?" Chase raised an eyebrow. You mean like going public? Yeah. I mean, your channel's kind of your life. You kissed me in the middle of the mall, Chase. People saw. He paused, thoughtful. I've been thinking about that too. And? I'm not ashamed of it, he said, voice steady. I just don't want this, he gestured between us, to turn into content. I don't want to put pressure on it. That caught me off guard. You don't? I asked, genuinely surprised. He shook his head. Nah, not this. This is. Mine. Ours. For once, I don't want 1,000 people watching. It was the most unchaste thing I'd ever heard, and it made my chest feel weirdly full. "You're kinda sweet when you're not being a dumbass," I said. "Don't tell anyone," he replied, bumping my knee with his. We spent the rest of the night just talking. About nothing and everything. At one point, he curled up with his head against my shoulder like it was the most normal thing in the world. And honestly, it was starting to feel that way. He fell asleep like that. Just drifted off. One arm draped over my stomach, his breath steady and warm. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how the hell I'd ended up here. I wasn't sure what we were yet. Not boyfriends. Not just roommates. Something in between, with more kissing and fewer personal boundaries. But whatever it was, we were figuring it out. The next morning, I woke up on the couch with a dead arm, a stiff neck, and Chase still curled up against me like a human furnace. He stirred when I tried to shift. Don't move," he muttered, his voice hoarse with sleep. "You're comfy." "I'm dying," I groaned. "You're crushing my kidney." "Just that one?" "Feels like both, actually." He laughed but didn't move, and I didn't really want him to. Eventually, we did get up, mostly because Chase's stomach started growling loud enough to scare the cat that wasn't even ours. He made eggs while I scrolled through emails, both of us in that comfortable silence that only came from living together too long. And then it happened. He looked up from the stove and casually said, "So my editor saw the footage." I froze. "What footage?" "From the mall. The kiss." "You sent that to someone?" "I didn't send it," he said quickly. "I uploaded all the raw files to our shared drive like I always do. I forgot the kiss was in there." I stared at him, fork in hand. And he thinks it's the best content I've filmed all year. Of course he does. He wants me to post it. I exhaled sharply. "Chase." I said no, he added quickly. I told him it wasn't going up, that it was private. That stopped me in my tracks. "Oh." He flipped the eggs and didn't look at me. "Unless you wanted it out there." I set my fork down. "No, I don't not want people to know. But I don't want that to be how they find out." It was raw and confusing, and I hadn't even processed it yet. He nodded, still not looking at me. "Chase," I said gently, "thank you for not posting it." He finally turned, meeting my eyes. I don't want you to feel like a prop in one of my videos." My chest tightened. That sentence, those words, meant more than I could say. Coming from him, it felt like a full-on declaration. "You're kinda killing me with how decent you're being lately," I said. "Don't get used to it," he smirked. "I still plan to ruin your life in Mario Kart later." I smiled, but something about the moment made me pause. "Can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "Are you okay, like, with all of this? With what this means for you?" He blinked, caught off guard. "I know this isn't something you were planning, and I don't want you to feel like you've got to prove anything. To me or anyone else." Chase leaned against the counter, chewing his bottom lip the way he did when he was trying to be honest. "I've never been with a guy before," he said. "I didn't really think about it until you." I swallowed hard. "But this? Us? It doesn't feel like I'm forcing something. It feels natural. Better than anything I've felt with anyone else." My heart skipped. "And yeah," he added, "I'm scared. I don't know what label fits me or what I'm supposed to say when people ask. But when I'm with you, it doesn't matter." The silence that followed was heavy, but not bad. Just full. Eventually, I got up, crossed the space between us, and pressed my forehead to his. "You don't have to figure everything out right now," I said. "Just stay here with me." He smiled, eyes closing. "That part's easy." Things didn't magically become perfect after that. There were awkward conversations. Questions from friends. A few nervous glances when we went out together. And yeah, one night Chase did accidentally post a thumbnail that had a very incriminating moment frozen mid-frame. He took it down 2 minutes later, but still. But slowly it became our normal. He didn't stop being chaotic. I didn't stop being sarcastic. But somewhere between all the jokes, the takeout dinners, the late-night editing sessions, and the post-kiss silences, we found something real. Not a prank, not content, just us. A few weeks later, Chase officially came out, not in a grand gesture, not with a dramatic coming out video, but in the most Chase way possible. We were filming a Q&A for his channel. It was one of those lazy Sunday afternoons where neither of us had anywhere to be, and he just said, "Let's answer some fan questions." I rolled my eyes and tried to make myself invisible off camera, but 5 minutes in, he turned the camera on me. "This is my roommate Liam," he said, spinning the lens. "He's been putting up with my nonsense for almost a year now." Against my will, I added. People in the live chat started spamming questions. One of them said, "Are you two dating?" Chase paused, looked at me, then looked back at the camera. "Yeah," he said, just like that. "We are." And I don't know what I expected. Maybe shock, maybe backlash. But the chat lit up with hearts and OMGs, and we knew it. Some people said they'd suspected it since the prank kiss. A few admitted to rewatching the mall video and catching the moment my hand had almost gone to his waist. Chase turned the camera back to me. "Sorry," he said. "I know we didn't rehearse that." I shrugged. "We're doing this live, huh?" He smiled. "No editing this time." It felt oddly good to have it out there, to stop pretending, to just be two guys figuring it out and not worrying about labels or perfect timing or who got to say it first. After the live stream ended, Chase looked over at me. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, weirdly okay. That night, we fell asleep in my bed instead of our separate rooms. No jokes, no hesitation, just warmth, limbs tangled under the blanket, his fingers loosely laced with mine. He whispered something just before sleep took him. "I think I like this version of us." And I did too. There's no dramatic ending to this story, no viral kiss that changed the world, no big twist. Just two guys in a cramped college apartment who fell into something unexpected. One had a camera, the other had a crush, and somehow it turned into something real. No script, no views, just love.